Nashville Predators tweak the top line again. Is this the combo we're going to see heading into the regular season? Plus, Andrew Brunette talks about how he's going to handle the power play and what to expect when the Preds play the Hurricanes tonight in preseason. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I want to start out with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys. We appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
Also want to mention today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Some interesting stuff to get to on today's episode. Andrew Brunette talking about his power play strategy. I think that was a big thing Preds fans are really wanting to know about their new offensive-minded head coach. We also had the Preds taking on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight, final preseason game at Bridgestone Arena. But first, another shift on the top line, and we've seen many people playing with Filip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly this camp.
We have, y'all.
Yep. And now we have seen another.
So a healthy Juuso Parssinen has been kind of skating through drills at training camp this week with Filip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly, which, statistics and success of the line aside, I think will make some people in the Predators fan base feel better about the other option who was skating with them earlier in training camp, who, by the way, did very well with them, Cole Smith. But I think everybody would be excited about a little Juuso Parssinen on that top line. I don't know. What do you think about this combination?
Yeah, I mean, remember, Juuso Parssinen had some chemistry with Filip Forsberg last year. Mm-hmm. And by all accounts from the people that were at camp yesterday, including yourself, they said Parssinen looked like he kind of fit right in.
He really does. This young guy so impresses me, y'all. 7th round draft pick. Now, I think part of that was he had some pretty significant injuries, a few years before that, and maybe that made people shy away. But this is a young man who has a hockey game. Like, he played, on the top line the last couple of days. We've seen him with Forsberg and O'Reilly. And here's what I'm learning about Forsberg and O'Reilly. If you're going to play on a line with them, you have to think the game really quickly. You have to be very intelligent because they just think the game at kind of a different level. They're doing great building chemistry, reading the game together. But who do you put in on that third line that's going to be able to pick up that, just seeing the game unfold the way that they do? And Juuso Parssinen may be that guy. He may be that guy, and he's kind of a total package in the sense that, like, you've got this big physical kid. We saw it with his first NHL goal where he just sort of moved a player with his body to get to the net. He's not afraid to clean up those greasy goals, get down in, be physical, puck battles. But this kid can skate. This kid can shoot between the legs and score overtime game-winning goals.
No.
Ask us how we know.
That's a great celebration.
Has the best celebration in all of hockey. Let's practice.
Yeah. Just
shoulder shrug. Couldn't everybody do that?
Yeah, sure. That was nothing.
That was like, why didn't you guys think of that?
Yeah.
So there is a lot to like about Juuso Parssinen, and a lot to like with him with Ryan O'Reilly and Filip Forsberg, because again, not just anybody can play there. And so, I'll be interested to see when the lines come out for tonight's preseason game. Are we going to get that combination? Because I think that it's worth a longer look.
Yeah, he's got that dimension of, kind of being a good two-way player, a little bit of grit to his game, which kind of looks like that's what Andrew Brunette wants on that other,
Right.
that other side of Filip Forsberg. But, he's also very skilled enough that he doesn't look out of place on the top line either. Somebody that can set up chances, somebody that can finish chances. So, from that standpoint, yeah, I think Juuso Parssinen would be a great fit there. I'm just hesitant to say that this is for sure the Nashville Predators' top line heading into the season, because so far we've seen Cole Smith on the top line, skating on the top line. We have seen Denis Gurianov on the top line. The other day, we saw Colton Sissons on the top line at points during the game. So, is this just Andrew Brunette kind of taking a bunch of people and saying, okay, who's got the best chemistry? We're going to try a bunch of people out and kind of see what combinations we like the best. Or is this Andrew Brunette, kind of adjusting as he goes and saying, I don't know about that, I'm going to try this. Or I don't know about that, I'm going to try this. Is it him changing it because he doesn't like the way it looks so far? That's a big question that I think we still have to figure out the answer to as we go into the regular season. Again, I'm kind of expecting Juuso Parssinen to be on the top line tonight against Carolina. I would kind of guess that this is because it's the last home preseason game, the closest we might get to a regular lineup in preseason. So we'll have to see that and see how he looks. And yeah, I mean, if he looks good, and I agree. I think that would be a good fit. I just don't know if that's going to be, the grand finale of what Andrew Brunette is wanting.
Right. I absolutely agree. This is something, just file it away in your mind. You don't even have to write it in pencil, because you are right. In talking with Andrew Brunette this week, camp's winding down. You only have 2 preseason games left. What is it that you're looking for? And his answer is chemistry. I'm looking for chemistry. And so what you see tonight is not a guarantee that that's what you're going to see, Friday against Carolina in Carolina. It is not a guarantee you're going to see that on opening night on Tuesday. And I want to be clear, what you see opening night on Tuesday is not necessarily going to be the team and the roster and the lines that you're going to see through the season. And I know, everybody has line blender sunburn here in Nashville, but Andrew Brunette, brand new eyes on these guys. And so he may not lock in, his top lines, for a while. I will say this about Juuso Parssinen and watching him, in camp this week, especially because, he's back from injury. He's played a couple of preseason games now. He's kind of feeling back up to speed. That man can shoot a puck. Yes. He has been the hot hand at practice the last 2 days. I mean, the shots that he is making on drills, just, we're getting sticks pounded on the boards and everything. So Juuso Parssinen, this is, kind of a great opportunity for him to, if he gets that opportunity tonight, because he really has been a very hot hand in training camp the last couple of days. So I'll be interested to see, how does that translate to the game?
Yeah, there's a lot to watch for in terms of that. And there's certainly more to watch for tonight when the Preds take on the Carolina Hurricanes. The final home preseason, they have one road win or one road game after this.
No win at all. Yeah.
What?
They have no wins at all, road or away yet. But it doesn't count, y'all. Doesn't count.
Yeah, it's preseason, folks.
It's preseason, y'all. Breathe.
We're gonna preview what to expect from tonight's Preds game coming up here in just a little bit. Plus, next we're gonna talk about a big topic that a lot of Preds fans were kind of wondering about before the season started, and that's how Andrew Brunette is gonna handle the power play. We'll dive into that coming up in just 1 second. But first, want to mention today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, you can snap into the NFL action this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And that's because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Again, that's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So yeah, you don't have to nail that first bet to get that big bonus. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, like how many passing yards is Ryan Tannehill going to get, or rushing yards is Derrick Henry going to get, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season in style. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Ann, we are talking the last few things to kind of wrap up for the Nashville Predators before the regular season starts next week. One of those things is the power play.
Yeah.
The bane of Nashville's existence for what feels like 3 decades now, kind of more like 5-6 years, but it certainly feels like 3 decades.
It does. It's dog years with the power play, y'all. Dog years. And you have to have a good, like, this is just what's real. You have to have a good power play if you want to be a good team in the NHL. You just do. Like, hey, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, tell us something we don't know.
Yeah. That would be ideal.
Yeah.
So basically, the Nashville Predators, they let go of Dan Lambert in the offseason. He was the power play guy the past couple of seasons, brought in to fix the power play, worked for like 9 months, and then it didn't. So the big question is, who on the Preds bench was actually going to be responsible for taking over the power play? And that was the biggest addition to the coaching staff in the offseason, which is the new head coach, Andrew Brunette, pulling a Thanos and just saying, fine, I'll do it myself.
He did. This was great. We're going to hear from Andrew Brunette here in just a minute. But, you know, as the media at training camp, we're really getting kind of a feel for who Andrew Brunette is. Y'all, he's a little bit delightful. So we did ask him, hey, you know, officially who is in charge of the power play, and asked him some questions about the power play. So this is the sum total of what he had to say about all of that.
Well, we'll see what it does. If it's not doing very good, it's not me. I'll designate it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to look after it, and I've done that in the past, so I enjoy it. And yeah, today was a little special team on both sides of it. I'm trying to hit everything before we get going here. Every coach that coaches it puts a lot of work into it, and it's the hardest thing to coach, because everybody figures, you know, you have man advantage, you should be lights out, and that's not always the case. So it's a tough. There's not much sympathy for the power play coach, because we all think they should, like I said, should score every time. As long as you're prepared, as long as it makes sense, and as long as you give them a little room to be creative within the structure of what you're looking for, I think no matter how good of a coach you are, you kind of give some options. At the end of the day, they make the decisions, and you have to trust they make the decisions. You have to have the right players to make the decisions. But really, as coaching staff, we can just prepare them and give them options, because no matter how good your power play is in zone, when you go up and down the ice 2 or 3 times, it's frustrating, and when frustration leads into the power play, then it's going to have trouble scoring, because you're so frustrated all the time. So it's crucial that we be good at that.
If it's going bad, it's not me. That is a man who has certainly read his fair share of Twitter comments from the Nashville Predators fan base right there.
I know. It was so funny because, like I said, we're all just kind of getting to know him. So it was a little bit delightful. I do have an observation. He says something, and we can talk about this, but he talks about, you know, you give them options and then they make, you know, some decisions. And it makes me wonder, here's the random things I wonder while talking to Andrew Brunette. Does he have a Peloton? Because there's a Peloton instructor who his line is, I make suggestions, you make decisions. And I'm like, Andrew Brunette, are you riding with Dennis Morton? Like, is that where you got that? So I didn't ask that in the scrum. I felt like maybe it's not time. But Yeah. And I think that's an interesting philosophy. You know what? It's my job to give them some structure. It's their job to be creative within that structure. That's a pretty long leash for, a power play that has been a little bit disappointing in recent seasons.
It should. That's the way it should be, right? And
Yeah.
like, it's like, look, here's the like how we want you to play, and like we want the movement, and we want move in and out, but we're not going to like call a play.
Right.
This isn't going to be like the NFL where it's like, okay, well, we're going to do this, and then this is going to set up Filip Forsberg going back door, and O'Reilly's going to find him there. Like, it just should be like, here's the philosophy. Like, we want puck movement. We want movement. We want you to move. We want you to kind of open up lanes. Yeah. In to his credit, that was kind of John Hines's philosophy too. Was we're not going to set anything up, but here's how we kind of want everything to look. The problem with that was just that, under Hines and Lambert, the Preds just couldn't finish.
Right. Well, and it felt like they spent so much time looking for that opportunity that they maybe didn't put the puck on net. Like, how many times was it just on a cellular level as a Predators fan? You're like, shoot the puck.
Yeah, sure. But if it's the same philosophy this year, then that's still going to be like on the players to not overthink that. Like, that's going to be the big task for the players.
Yeah. And if you listen to who we've seen in practices, and again, all of this could change, but this is who he has on the power play units. They spent quite a bit of time yesterday at training camp working on special teams. The top unit, Ryan O'Reilly, Roman Josi, Filip Forsberg, Tommy Novak, Cody Glass. The second unit was Parsonen, Tyson Barrie, Luke Evangelista, the new young man, Samuel Fagemo, and then Garyanov was on there too. He was kind of in and out. But if you look at that top unit, Ryan O'Reilly, Josi Forsberg, Novak, Glass, you're looking at some of the best minds that the Nashville Predators have. You have, here's my thing. Ryan O'Reilly, I'm not telling you what to do, make a decision. And so I'll be interested to see, I love Tommy Novak on that line. Tommy Novak, say what you want about him, one of the smartest guys who can watch the game unfold so quickly and anticipate things. So I'm interested to see what can that unit do with a little bit of freedom. And here's what's so exciting. This unit, after they were done running drills, stayed together and talked about some things. And then after practice, hung out and were working on some different passes from different spots, on the power play. So they really want to see this work. Obviously, they all want to see it work. I'm not implying that somebody last year didn't want to see it work, but I'm interested to see what happens with this. And it will be, I wonder how much of this is the Ryan O'Reilly factor. I think there's a huge Ryan O'Reilly factor across the board with the Nashville Predators. And that's probably a podcast for another day, but I'm interested to see how Ryan O'Reilly on the power play sort of shifts the execution of it. So something to keep in mind.
And it's interesting because Ryan O'Reilly is probably going to have a different role than what he was, doing in Toronto. At the end of last year, he was kind of like the net front guy, like the guy that, would go kind of win the battles down low and go get the puck. He might be more of a setup man here, like, kind of a little bit more of a skill role. But I will say this, Ann, in the last two preseason games against the Tampa Bay Lightning, one of which against, Tampa Bay's probably top penalty killers, the Preds power play did have some success there.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that Andrew Brunette talked about in that clip and that we saw in training camp is he spent a lot of time working on coming into the zone. A lot, when you work on the power play, you tend to set up in the offensive zone. Well, my friends, if only it were that easy. And how much frustration is there in getting into the zone and getting set up. And you heard him say in that clip, look, when you have to keep entering and re-entering the zone, you get frustrated. Frustrated players don't score power play goals. And so they spent a ton of time talking about when you're bringing the puck in the zone, if you don't get the pass you think you're going to get, here's how you're going to adjust. here's how you're going to set up if it didn't go in the way you thought it would. So it's really kind of a rebirth of a lot of things. But like you said, it's kind of similar philosophy.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to watch and see what happens if the Predators get an opportunity in these next couple of preseason games. Like, what are we going to see from these guys? It's a really good power play unit. It's a very good second power play unit. Love Tyson Barrie on the power play. Just love him.
And imagine the Preds are still going to shuffle some things around a little
Very
bit.
true.
What is going to happen tonight when the Predators play the Carolina Hurricanes? We'll talk about maybe some things you and I are going to be watching out for. That's coming up next.
That's right. But first, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by our great friends at Indeed. So when you are drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? Look, if you are building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. So don't spend hours on multiple job sites combing through for candidates who may have the right skills. You can do it all with Indeed. You can find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match. They have assessments and they have virtual interviews. If you hate waiting, Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed's employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Indeed knows that finding people with the right skills makes all the difference when you're a hiring team of one. So visit Indeed.com/locked-on to start hiring now. Again, that's Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. If you need to hire, you need Indeed.
All right, and we are at our final two preseason games of the season. Let's go, baby. The Predators take on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Tomorrow,
bless you, they take on the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina.
Thank you for holding that fort down.
I got you.
The allergy attack. So 2 back-to-back games against Carolina, and then that's it.
That's it, y'all.
We're regular season hockey after that, Ann. So if I had to guess, tonight, final home preseason game, we're going to see probably as close to a regular lineup as we might expect for an NHL regular season. And then tomorrow, we're going to see a load up of the depth guys. Maybe some of the guys battling for the last couple of roster spots. That seems to be what Carolina is going to do tonight. What are you going to be watching for tonight, Ann?
Probably the biggest thing that I'm watching for tonight is I'm going to be watching for Sammy Fagemo. He is the young man that the Predators picked up off waivers on Sunday, was with the LA Kings 2019 second round draft pick from the LA Kings. This is a young man, and we talked about it on Monday's episode. He's a goal scorer. He's a shooter. Very good at a lot of other things. He has spent some time on the power play in practices, spent a lot of time. Spent a lot of time working with him, but Andrew Brunette really wants to see a little bit more from him because he hasn't had a full training camp. So, and I really want to see what we have in young, he's 23, Sammy Fagemo. So for me, that's
young. Let's not pretend that's not young.
It's the whole hockey age. Is 23 young in hockey years? Probably still, right?
Yeah, it's got to be, because I'm about to turn 35 in a couple months. So
yeah, that's young. Trust me. Ask me how I know. Anyway, so for me, really kind of getting a look at him and, what does he bring? This has been a tough situation. It's a tough situation for the Predators to have such a short time to evaluate him, and God love him. He's coming in off waivers halfway through training camp. But he's done a really good job, I think, not over trying. Like, I really feel like the Predators are getting a good look at who he is. So for me, that's somebody to really keep an eye on. They are going against, look, Carolina. A lot of people have Carolina as your Stanley Cup final team.
Yeah,
a lot have them as hoisting the cup. We will not probably see that team tonight. Word from Ryan Hinkle, who covers the Hurricanes for the Hockey News, is that they're really going to be playing a lot of their depth pieces, their PTO guys. But one to keep an eye on for them. Talk about hockey young, little Felix Ungersorum. He's probably not little, y'all. But he is just barely, he is the freshest of 18 years old. He was 17 when they drafted him. Very smart, very calm, real solid player. Carolina's loved what they've seen from him. So expect to kind of keep an eye out on him too. So those are kind of the two players that I'm really watching for.
Yeah. Great name too.
I know. Swede, I think.
Of course.
I'm sure he's a Swede.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you're talking about. Fagemo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was an interesting pickup, and from a lot of people's standpoint, is he looked really good. He scored a pretty good goal on UC Saros in camp. What I think might have just been his second ever shot on goal, during a Predators drill. So I think a lot of people are just excited for that. It's also interesting because, we've talked, Dan, about who's, kind of on the top power play unit, and Tommy Novak, and, the second line was Denis Gurianov and, some of these other players. And it's kind of interesting that we haven't really, kind of talked about Phil Tomasino much.
Yeah.
In that context of being in a main scoring role. We haven't heard a lot from Kiefer Sherwood, kind of in these last, week or so of camp. So some of these guys that we're kind of expecting to be they may have a big role. We haven't heard a lot from them. And now in comes Fagemo.
Right.
And, it's interesting because we talked about it when the Predators put that waiver claim on him. Is this a move just because, they kind of see him maybe as a diamond in the rough? And they think that they may be able to develop something out of them? Or was that a move that the Preds looked around and said, okay, for whatever reason, we're not 100% thrilled with what we have right now. We need to go out and maybe get another piece to throw into the mix here. And that seems to be what happened. And it's interesting, Ann, because, at first you would have absolutely been hard pressed to convince me that Phil Tomasino and Luke Evangelista were not going to be on the roster. It seems like they were going to be, the people that Barry Trotz was talking about when he said we need to open up some space for some of the younger players. Right. It's funny because the last week or half of camp, just kind of how things have been going. I'm looking at that and going, it's there may be a move or maybe an assignment to a line that I think Preds fans might not be super thrilled with when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see where some of these players that I think we all kind of thought we're going to be battling for, hey, are they going to get top line minutes? Are they going to be with Forsberg and O'Reilly? I'm not sure that we're going to see those players you're talking about, Phil Tomasino, Luke Evangelista. They're skating in camp with Tommy Novak, which I will tell you is a really great line. But I don't know. I do feel a little bit like the assumption was going into camp, these guys are going to get top line minutes. Top 6 minutes. And I'm not sure that's how that's all going to pan out, whether it's with this new player or whether they're going to kind of rotate some other guys. I don't know, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see what does Brunette put together for these forward lines tonight? And what are we going to learn about these players in these last 2 preseason games that are really important? Because like you said, none of this is set in stone. There really is very little that I feel like lineup wise is set in stone. I think Ryan O'Reilly and Forsberg together. I think Gustav Nyquist and Cody Glass together. I think there's a lot of other moving parts that could happen.
Yeah. There's, I think there might be a player or two that we figured was going to have a big role early on.
Mhm.
Maybe not have as big of a role
Right.
as we thought, maybe. So
Agreed.
that's going to be something to watch for tonight, for sure. Hey, by the way, if you have any questions about the Nashville Predators, we are doing a mailbag episode tomorrow on the Locked On Predators podcast. We've got a couple of good questions so far, but keep sending more thoughts in. You can tweet us at LO_Predators. You can also drop a comment on our YouTube page, or hit us up on Instagram. Just search Locked On Predators. We're on there. Same for Facebook. So let us know your questions, hot takes, whatever you want to send our way as we go into the regular season, and we will answer them. And where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on Twitter X, whatever, at ANK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at penaltyboxradio.com or follow me on X at _NSMorgan. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We will get back with an all new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.